So there are all kinds of different circumstances in life that drive us to make changes in life. And in my particular case, I found myself at the end of a 20-year relationship with a wonderful person that I'm very grateful to have had in my life. And we have an amazing daughter in her late teens. But it was now time for me to face the reality that I was at a crossroads in my life and needed to make some tough choices. Now, it doesn't matter how old you are, your status, your religious connotation, or what your values and beliefs are. Things in life don't always turn out as you'd once hoped, but instead it's almost seeming as if they've played out maybe strangely as they were actually supposed to. In relationships, there are two main aspects that can affect even the best of them, and these are longevity and familiarity. Now, the longer you are with someone, the more familiar you become with them. And over time, even if nobody's done anything particularly wrong, this can start to take its toll on both people. Now, one day you might wake up and one says to the other, you do realize that for the past 10, 15 years, we've just become housemates. You've been so busy running on that hamster wheel of life with work, maybe raising kids and all the other things that life has thrown at you, from economic recessions and financial difficulties to health issues or any of the things that I've previously mentioned. Somewhere along the line, you've forgotten about yourself. If you have kids as they get older and become more independent, slowly but surely you start to get more of that time back for yourself. Your focus returns to you, and it's almost like an opportunity to look in the mirror and start to get to know yourself again and ask yourself some very important questions. For example, what did I really want out of life? What were my goals or aspirations? Have I achieved what I wanted to? In other words, what about me? You might be surprised at the answers that come back at you, the realization that you may have lost sight of yourself. Maybe you've changed and become a different person. Either way, you may have found yourself in a position where something needs to change. And the only person that can make those changes is you. Fortunately, in my case, both of us wanted to do things in as decent a way as possible for the best of everyone concerned, and being supportive and understanding towards each other in finding our own happiness, whatever that was for each of us. However, sometimes the best way to move forward is separately. After many soul-searching discussions, the upshot was that there was an unspoken agreement that whoever blinked first or moved on was effectively giving a green light for the other to also move on in whatever way that would be. My attention had been focused somewhat for a couple of years on the possibility of starting what you might call a new life abroad. And one day I was on YouTube, and in my feed, a video was suggested to me that was about a guy in his early 60s who was in Asia, specifically the Philippines, with his new partner, Filipina, who were both very happy together and enjoying a very simple, straightforward life. Now, at the time, I remember thinking, well, at least there's an option for the future that I wasn't aware of before. So as time went by, I found myself immersing myself in all things moving abroad, specifically focusing on Asia, in particular both the Philippines and, of course, Thailand. The YouTube algorithm, being as intelligent as it is, does what it can to keep you on the platform for as long as possible by continuously suggesting to you one video that's loosely connected to another and another and another. And before you know where you are, you're subscribed to half a dozen or a dozen different vloggers partaking of their infinite wisdom as self-proclaimed experts on something that you are effectively deemed to be a novice. So as the weeks and months went by, I had learned all about the pros and cons associated with a potential move to those areas. For example, the cost of living was in generally significantly cheaper than in the West, even taking into account the current state of inflation. The cost of leasing a small condo over there was around a third of what it might cost over here. So it didn't take too long to figure out the economies at play meant that your money could stretch much further in those countries. Also, in general, the pace of life seemed to be a little bit more relaxed and less stressful. The next obvious point was the difference in climate. Now, in the UK, during the summer, a good day is 18 to 21 degrees if you're lucky, but it doesn't last long. When our version of summer is over, it's a long winter lasting for close to half a year. Whereas over there, an average is around 30-something or more, but the humidity is much higher and there are occasional earthquakes and regular typhoons that can bend palm trees in half. So I continued my research on all things Asia, including culture, traditions, cost of living, of course, romance, and everything else involved. By doing this, as the months went by, I became very familiar with the overall concept of living over there, to the point where it was almost as if a virtual part of me had been there already. After a year or two, it got to the point where there really wasn't much I didn't know, and I felt like if I really wanted to do this and the opportunity came about, if the time was right, then I could actually make this happen. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, the underlying essence of all of this is that when you are faced with an opportunity or choices or at a crossroads in your life, that you find the courage to actually do what needs to be done. So just do it, but do it intelligently. So it's now time to make a decision, to take action, to make preparations and commit.